session. I'm really glad to be here in New York. I've been to Men Having Babies before in New York. Our fertility center in Portland has been a long-term sponsor of Men Having Babies. We've attended their sessions in New York, San Francisco, Brussels, and in Tel Aviv. And what I'd like to do today is just to introduce you to our program. We actually have staff members here, 3 other staff members from Portland, Andrea, Craig, and Liz. Our clinic has, for many years, had as part of its mission helping all people become parents through fertility treatments. So for many years, we've supported the rights of men and women, gay men and gay women, to have children. In fact, I was actually at the Shanghai Pride event in June of this year. I was the physician that was invited, the American physician that was invited to speak about family building options for Chinese men and women in the United States. You all have it much easier than the people in China. But it's amazing how many Chinese lesbians and gays are coming over to the United States now for medical care. Our clinic was founded in 1989. We're the largest fertility center in Oregon. We have over 100 staff. And our clinic has grown a lot in the past decade because of our high success rates. So we've helped patients from over 30 countries who come to Portland. Wouldn't be necessarily anyone's first concept of where to go in the United States for medical care, but the reason why others have found us is because we've consistently had very, very high pregnancy rates. And I think the main reason for that is the quality of our laboratory. Our lab was designed by some of the cleanroom engineers that are involved in creating fabrication plants for Intel. So we have very high purity standards in our lab, which is critically important for growing embryos. And our rates have been very stable for many years. We also have our own in-house egg donor agency. We have about 120 to 125 egg donors. They're not all available at any one time. At any one time, there's about 40 donors that are available for selection. But the list changes week by week, and most of the patients that we help, most of the future parents that we help, do pick an egg donor from our clinic, although we also collaborate with many different egg donor agencies across the country. I've helped men from New York who've selected egg donors who've lived in Florida. Actually, one of the couples I helped is a couple from the Upper West Side, and they found the egg donor that they liked through an egg donor agency in Southern California. Their egg donor also lives in the Upper West Side, and they thought it was so great that their donor lived in the Upper West Side, so they knew it was the right donor when they found that. But there is some advantages of working with a clinic that has its own in-house egg donor agency, because we do all the medical screening on the donors before they're available for selection, so we know that they qualify. We also have a unique aspect of our clinic is we have genetic counselors and an in-house genetics lab that does chromosomal testing on embryos. So if you want your embryos biopsied for genetic screening, we can do that in-house. There are 5 physicians in our group and 3 nurse practitioners who help in the management of patients. But the future fathers that we work with are assigned to 2 treatment coordinators. So they would be your constant contact during your journey. You can call us, email us, Skype with us anytime. So even though you may be on the East Coast, we're in constant contact with you. So it's really, I think, no different than if you were working with a clinic in the nearby state. This is our group. We just had an open house about a month ago, in that we moved into our new headquarters building, which is in downtown Portland. This is the building. It's 24,000 square feet. On the first floor is administration. The second floor is our IVF laboratory, which again is new and has all state-of-the-art equipment. And the top floor is our clinic. There's a wonderful hotel that's right across the street from our clinic where patients can stay when they come to visit. We collaborate with surrogacy centers in Oregon. Oregon actually is one of the states that has the most surrogacy agencies in the country, probably because Oregon has a very friendly policies towards surrogacy. So it's very easy to get a pre-birth order so that the fathers are listed on the birth certificate. And there are many wonderful women in the Pacific Northwest who are interested in helping people have children through surrogacy. But we also work with surrogates from around the country. So no matter how you want to choose to create your journey, we're willing to partner with you, whether the egg donor and the surrogate is in the East Coast or in Canada or wherever, we're willing to work with you. But we're also, part of my job is to give you advice. So if there are issues of concern with the egg donor you're interested in or the surrogate you're interested in, I'm going to be honest with you and I'm going to tell you. Because our goal is for you to have a successful journey and have a healthy baby. These are our pregnancy rates, and our live birth rates are within 2 percentage points of this. This is ongoing pregnancy rates. So you can see with a single embryo transfer, the pregnancy rate is 80%. With 2 embryo transfers, it's about 91%. The most recent statistics actually with 2 embryo transfers is 93%. So almost everyone gets pregnant with the very first embryo transfer. That's actually not true in all clinics. So you should be a good consumer and analyze the statistics of the clinic that you're working with. There's also a very high twin rate with transferring 2 embryos. That's something that a lot of future parents hope for, but it has its pitfalls, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. One newer aspect of fertility care that's becoming quite common, especially in our clinic, is biopsying of embryos to analyze their chromosomes. So we always let the embryos grow until they're 5 or 6 days old before we either place them in the woman's uterus or freeze them. Through advances in technology, we can now remove a small number of the placental cells from the embryo, which are called trophectoderm cells, and the genetics lab can analyze those cells to determine if the chromosomes are normal or not normal. The embryo should receive 23 chromosomes from the egg and 23 chromosomes from the sperm. Unfortunately, that doesn't always occur. So it's possible that the embryo might have an abnormal number of chromosomes, even if you pick an egg donor who's very young. Your age actually doesn't matter. It's primarily the age of the woman who's providing the eggs that influences the chance of the embryo being genetically abnormal. And what we find when we do this kind of analysis in our program is that about 23% of the embryos that we biopsy that look normal are actually chromosomally abnormal. So this gives us one additional way to test embryos to learn if they can lead to a healthy baby. Now, one comment I would make is most of the embryos that are abnormal would never lead to a pregnancy or a baby if they were put in the woman's uterus, because any chromosome can be abnormal in the ones that we test, and there's only a limited number of abnormalities that will actually allow the embryo to grow into a fetus. It potentially could grow into a baby. But this sort of testing will screen for conditions like Down syndrome. It also can screen for abnormalities in chromosome 13 and 18 and sex chromosome abnormalities that can lead to babies. We do find out the sex of the embryos when we do the testing. We feel that it's the patient's right to know what the sex is, so if you're interested in knowing, not every patient is, if you're interested in knowing, we will share that information with you. But typically, if we're doing genetic testing on embryos, we'll biopsy them and freeze them. And that means that you can create your embryos months before you actually use your embryos. So a lot of the future fathers that we help will select their egg donor, go through treatment at our clinic, freeze the embryos, and then they'll wait to be matched with their surrogate. Twins are very common. This is actually a slide from, or a picture from a documentary that was done by a TV station in France. These were my patients, Bruno and Christophe. They had twins through a surrogacy journey in Oregon. Their surrogate delivered at 34 weeks. Their babies had to spend about 2.5 weeks in the hospital before they were able to leave. Now for Europeans, that could be very, very expensive because they don't have health insurance for the babies after they're born. Since probably most of you, if not all of you, live in the United States, you probably have American health insurance. So most likely your insurance would cover the health of the babies, or the medical care of the babies after they're born. The concern about twins is primarily prematurity. And unfortunately, we can't always predict when a woman might be at risk for delivering a baby early. So that's always something that a fertility center, your physician will advise you of, and then you can decide if you do want to transfer one embryo or two. There certainly has been a trend over the past 5 years towards doing more single embryo transfers. I would say in our program about half the treatments that we're doing involve a single embryo transfer and about half involve transferring two embryos. I was at a party actually last Saturday. Some patients of mine from Luxembourg just had twins. And in fact, what was interesting is Portland's not that big of a place. Luxembourg is a very small country. Well, last Saturday there was a birthday party for two sets of twins for male couples from Luxembourg. Their twins were born a week apart, and they had a party. I got to attend. It was fun. And their twins were great. You know, they were both born at term, no problems. In fact, one of the women who's a surrogate is trying to convince patients of mine to do another twin journey in a year. So they're already planning for the next set of twins. But I guess one of the points, and you probably have heard this from other clinics and other presentations today, you guys really should be optimistic because you have the best chance of success in one treatment of any higher pregnancy rates in heterosexual couples who are going through fertility, because most likely you're not subfertile, your egg donor has high fertility, and your surrogate will have high fertility. So if anyone can get pregnant, it should be your surrogate, you and your surrogate. But it is very important that we're very particular along the process to make sure that we do appropriately screen your egg donor and your surrogate to provide you with the best chance of success. This is my take on fertility in the United States. All clinics are not the same. The pregnancy rates do vary from one clinic to the next. All doctors may have been trained in reproductive endocrinology and infertility, but success rates can vary due to the techniques in the laboratory as well as the treatment plans that are offered by physicians. If you want to compare clinics, you can look at the SART website, the Society for Assisted Reproductive Technology. What you're going to find is the pregnancy rates and live birth rates in donor egg cycles, not necessarily surrogacy cycles, but it's one way of looking at fresh embryo transfer success rates in terms of quality control from one clinic to the next. So that's a way of kind of gauging the success rates of programs. The reasons to come to Portland. We have very high pregnancy rates with the very first treatment. There's nothing more disappointing than, and heartbreaking actually, and expensive than going through a surrogacy journey and having it not work. A lot of our patients tell us that they really enjoy working with our staff and finding their egg donor through our clinic. All of our egg donors have already completed their medical screening, and if they donated in the past, we'll share with you the outcome of their past donations. So that may be one way of gauging whether you would want to work with that donor or not. Our embryologists are very skilled at doing embryo biopsies. About 80% of the IVF cycles that we're doing now involve biopsying embryos for chromosome testing. In our clinic this year, we'll do about 1,000 fresh egg collection cycles. So we're, I would say, a big clinic. Not the biggest, but we're very experienced. Another point that has been raised in the past 24 hours in talking to future fathers is how often or how much time they have to spend in Portland. You actually don't need to come to Portland at all. If you want to freeze your sperm here, you can do so and ship the sperm to our clinic. We do use frozen sperm for the IVF treatment, so it doesn't matter to us if you freeze in New York or you freeze in Portland. However, we really, really like to see you in Portland. That way you get to meet all the staff that you're working with. It really makes it more of a human connection. And it's actually not that difficult to get to Portland from here. So it's a fun place to go for a few days to visit. There's a lot of opportunities for kind of enjoyment in Portland because we have very good restaurants, we're close to the beach, you can go to Mount Hood, a lot of beautiful scenery to see. This is just a montage of Oregon. This is actually the lobby of the hotel that's right across the street. It's kind of an old Hollywood theme. And there are special discounted rates for our patients. I want to thank you for coming, and I'd be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, we're ready to
I
switch.
guess. Anyway, I would be glad to offer any of you free Skype consults if you'd like to talk to me.